Okay, we're officially live.
All right, it is 11:04 on January the 24th, 2021. This is the first virtual meeting of official meeting of the House Judiciary Committee. Welcome to everyone as we begin the 2021 legislative session. I will begin. There's a lot of information that I'm going to provide here, and we'll give it to you in writing to the extent that we haven't already, but I'm going to go over a bunch of things. I'll try and break it up by category so that people have questions they can fire away. But I'm also going to try to be sensitive to people's time and just keep moving. We are going to have a limited number of people. I'm going to give a little staff overview here, and Dylan has put it up on the screen. The staff overview of who is working for the committee for this session. We don't have a lot of interns. We don't have the normal number of clerks. We just have a bare bones staff within the office and the committee councils. I am your chair. Dylan Goldberg is the assistant to the chair. Will Shorter is working for me and handling my district work, is basically my district director. Libby, who was here last year, handles a lot of communications work for the committee, and is going to help with some researching as well. The vice chair, you may have met her, Delegate Vanessa Atterbury, is with us today, and her aide is Liz Twigg. Our councils are still the same, Claire, Lauren, and Holly, who will be working mainly remotely. And that's going to be the rule of thumb as I go into the office protocols here for a moment. Whitney Duck is here, and she is basically, she is controlling the front door. If Whitney says that you can't go back there, you really can't go back there. We are trying to limit exposure to the people, for the people who are in the committee suite, and there are going to be a limited number of people in the committee suite going forward. So if you want to speak with me, I'm more than happy to speak with you and meet with you, but please send an email to my official email at luke.klippinger@house.state.md.us, and I will set that up. So I've touched briefly on the office protocols, but they're there on the screen. We are not allowing anyone to use the committee room itself. We're not allowing it to be used for meetings or advocates or any other meetings. We are also, that also applies to the conference room and the committee suite. Only the people who are working inside the suite can use the kitchen, including the microwave and the refrigerator. The kitchen will be closed to other delegates and staff during the session. The committee bathrooms are off limits. We are basically building a little bit of a wall around the committee offices, because this is where I'm going to be working out of, and we're trying to limit exposure to the best of our ability. We won't have food and refreshments here, so Whitney did not go to the store and buy lots of drinks or anything like that, so sorry. But we're not collecting funds for them either, so there's that. The committee schedule overview, the committee office will be open from Monday to Friday every week of the legislative session from 8:30 in the morning until the business of the day concludes. Whitney will be here to answer calls until 5:30. If we're here on a weekend, members and staff will get notice of that. We intend to have bill hearings Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Wednesdays and Thursdays, generally from 1:30 until the conclusion of the hearing schedule. Subcommittees will meet at 11 o'clock when they meet. Voting sessions will generally be on Fridays at 4 o'clock. I will tell people we will not have a voting session tomorrow. We will not, in all likelihood, 99% certain we are not having a voting session next Friday. Whether we have one the Friday after that is still up in the air. We'll talk about that here in a moment. You should please monitor the hearing schedule on the MGA website. And let me underline that. There is a lot of helpful information on the MGA website. And if you yourself have not looked at it, I strongly encourage you to do that. It's helpful just so that you can see what's going out there on the publicly facing website. All the committee meetings, including subcommittee meetings and voting sessions, are going to be conducted via Zoom. 48 hours before the hearing, your delegate email account will receive a message that contains the Zoom link that will allow you to access the Zoom. There'll also be a link that will allow you and others to access the YouTube live stream. The Zoom link can only be sent to your delegate email account. Zoom credentials to access hearings with your phone cannot be provided. During the length, depending on the length of the hearing, I'm going to try and let people get up for breaks a little bit every once in a while, because this is a different, certainly a different way of going forward with this. We will post an intermission slide when we do that. When the break is concluded, members are going to have to turn their cameras back on. When we're on the Zoom, you're going to need to have your camera on. So that if you have questions about that, we can talk about that in a little bit. You should log into the Zoom meeting room about 10 minutes before the hearing scheduled to begin. Allows the staff to take care of technical difficulties, because they never ever happen with Zoom. And most hearing participants will be attending these meetings from home. So please make sure that you're muted on Zoom, except when I call on you to address the audience. As I mentioned, per guidelines from the Speaker's office, you are required to have your Zoom video on while attending a virtual hearing. Anything you write in the chat box is viewed by the public and is available through a public information requests. If you have questions, you can be recognized to ask a question. You don't necessarily need to use the chat box to ask those questions. To ask questions during the bill hearings, please use the raise hand feature, which is located, if you go and click on the participants button, you can raise your hand and I will see it and put you in order. If for some reason I don't see that, we have been using in the chat that people have a question, they write question into the chat. I'm fine with that too, and I'm going to be looking at both of them to recognize people. For the public, we will be starting at 1:30. Bill hearings will be announced 7 days prior to the scheduled hearing, and the hearing schedule is located on the MGA's website. If they want to sign up to testify and or submit written testimony, they need to sign up via the My MGA portal on the General Assembly's website. There's a red My MGA icon, which is located at the top right corner of the website homepage, and you have to register and create that account. You have to offer your own email address during the registration process. You cannot submit written testimony for other people under any circumstance. If somebody wants to submit written testimony, they need to do that themselves. People who want to provide oral testimony must sign up themselves. They cannot sign up and then get picked and then defer to somebody else. If you sign up to speak, you've got to speak. We have had some challenges here in the first week. We would strongly advise people not to directly email your written testimony to the committee, because we're all going to become awash in written testimony and it doesn't go into the bill file. You need to submit your written testimony through the My MGA portal. There's a tutorial on there that you can look at to use the My MGA tutorial. Now the time to sign up for a bill begins 2 days prior to the bill's scheduled hearing. It'll open at 10 a.m. and close at 3 o'clock on that day. Due to virtual and time adjustments for hearings, we're encouraging people to submit written testimony but if they want to speak, then they have to sign up between 10 and 3. I think, well, we'll get through testimony timing and then I'll take any questions before I, before I go on. We're going to have up to 50 witnesses maximum for each bill during bill hearings. Oral testimony for bills that are in the exact identical posture in this session as they were passed out of the Judiciary Committee in 2020. We'll get 2 minutes for the bill sponsor, 1 minute for oral testimony for all other witnesses. You're going to start to see this on the bill announcements where we'll make clear this is a 2 and 1 bill or a 3 and 2 bill. A 3 and 2 bill is a newly proposed bill. So we'll give a little bit more time for that. The rationale behind this is if we've already voted on it, there was some thought about just making these sponsor only. I thought that it was more important since some of them did have votes cast in opposition to them. I kind of wanted to be fair and give people the opportunity again to make the case. The bill order for the hearings will be available the business day before the scheduled hearing. That'll allow people to kind of get a basic sense of when they would have to be on the Zoom to testify. You're going to have the opportunity to ask questions of all witnesses only after the witnesses provide their oral testimony. So witnesses should keep their responses to these questions as concise as possible. And with love in my heart to all of my colleagues on the committee, your question should not take longer than the answer provided to the question. I have not yet issued a ban on soliloquies that poses questions, but we're going to have to try and stay on target. The one thing that I've learned from the last our last briefings is that everything takes a little longer on Zoom. We already see a lot of people. The cap on witnesses will limit that a little bit, but I still think it's important. We do want to hear from witnesses. We want to hear what they have to say. That's why I'm happy that we're going to have, the 50 witness cap as opposed to less. But at the same time, I think it's important for us to keep our questions succinct. All right, with that, I'll stop here for a minute. And if you have a question, let's see how this works for people. You can either raise your hand or you can, oh, there are hands raised and everything. All right, God bless you all. All right, we'll start with Delegate Williams, then go to Delegate Anderson and Delegate Cardin. Delegate Williams.
Yes, I have a question. So I understand that for written testimony, written testimony, people have to create this account and submit it through the MyMGA app. For testifying orally, if they're a member of our panel, do they still have to create a separate account, go to MyMGA and say that they're testifying orally, even though they're a member of my panel?
Dylan, I'm going to let you answer that. I think the answer is yes, but go ahead.
So unfortunately, this year for all committees, there are no panels. The sponsor will only present, and people have to sign up themselves, and the chairman will call on them during the committee in the order in which they signed up through MyMGA. So you cannot sign up other people for your panel because there are no panels. There are only individuals and they must sign up themselves.
Okay, I think that's where I was confused. I was assuming we were still having panels. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, they couldn't quite work that out. We're not going to have panels like we traditionally would. Let's go to Delegate Anderson. Delegate Anderson, it's on mute. There we go.
Am I unmuted?
Not anymore. Oh yeah, you're good now. Good.
Am I good? I just wanted to say that that tie and jacket combination is beautiful. But also,
it's too early in session for this.
All right. Well, no, my question was,
save your flattery for later. It's fine. It's good.
Okay. A second ago, you said something about when we're in the hearing, we have to be, our camera has to be on, right?
Yes.
And day before yesterday, or maybe 2 days ago, got a email from Eric Lutke with possible backgrounds that we could use. use those or what are we doing?
You can use those. I think the best equivalent that I can, if you were sitting at your desk, if the committee was in, but you got up to go somewhere else, you would not be behind your desk because you got up to go somewhere else. So basically the difference here is you would just have a camera shot of either an empty chair or of that background that has been provided. But you would not be there if you needed to get up and walk away.
All right, I'm not really understanding it. So when a committee hearing starts, like let's say right now, let's say I want to put up a different screen. If I have to go to the bathroom or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Is that allowable?
You can do that. You can have a background that would be on but it would be on whenever it's the virtual background that would be behind you if you were sitting there or would show up if you were not sitting there. You can't have, okay, the example is, can't do this.
Okay.
I can do this.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
I think I did that well. I didn't know that I'd have to act things out.
I can't see what you're doing.
The difference was that I got out of the camera shot. I can do this, but I cannot do this, where it's just my name up on the screen. Okay?
Okay.
It's like if we were in our seats, if you're not in your seat, they can tell that you're not in your seat. Okay?
All right.
All right. I think I saw Delegate Cardin and then Delegate Conaway. Delegate Cardin.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and your staff did an amazing job organizing this. It makes all makes a lot of sense. If we didn't hit the limit on a hearing, let's say there's only 6 people that signed up for House Bill 775, and it's like the hearing just began or the hearings have begun, but that bill has not been heard yet. When you said up to 3 o'clock that day, can somebody come in and test and sign up to test?
No, you have to sign up
Immediately, like as long as it's
2 days prior. 2 days prior. So let me explain it. So if you have a bill scheduled for tomorrow, they would have had to sign up between 10 and 3, 2 days prior. So on Wednesday, they would have to sign up, and Dylan has highlighted the appropriate part. You see what I mean? I think Delegate Cardin's video is frozen.
And Mr. Chairman, if I can just explain
Sure.
one more thing. So for instance, for today's bill hearings at 1:30, that submission oral sign-up window opened on Tuesday at 10 a.m. and closed at 3 p.m. And that was the window that opened for today's bill hearings. For tomorrow's bill hearings, the window opened yesterday. For Monday's bill hearings, that window opens today. For Tuesday, that window opens tomorrow.
I think we may have lost Delegate Cardin. We're going to go to Delegate Conaway.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
How do we make the screen so that I can see all of 26 participants?
You can do it by going to gallery view. And
There.
although when Dylan is sharing the screen and has got the document up on the screen, you can't see everything at that point.
Oh, okay.
Sharing a document, he can't do it, but outside of that, you would go to gallery view and you'd be able to see all 20.
Right. So right now, Dylan is on the document, so I can only see 6.
Right, but you should be able to flip through them and see.
Yes, I can flip through them, but I'd like to. Okay. So
Yeah.
when the public signs up to testify, they come online to testify, do they have to have their video on or do they not have? It's mandatory that they have their video on?
Yes.
What happens if they don't cut their video on or they don't have video?
well, if they don't have video, then they're going to have a hard time testifying in front of the committee. I mean, it's the same difference to some extent. I mean, I feel like I'm about to enter into an existential novel, but having said that,
Existential, no.
I mean, if they came to the Judiciary Committee, but we weren't able to see them, you can only hear them. I don't know. I think we would be vaguely troubled by that. But having said that, we want to be able to see and hear from the witnesses.
Okay, well, thank you for the education this morning. I thought a soliloquy was when an actor on the stage gives an insight to the general audience, but
Yeah,
not to the fellow actors, but my bad. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Have a great day.
Oh, it's going to be great. So anyway, let's move on. I don't think, thank you, Delegate Conaway. Sandy Bartlett. Delegate Sandy Bartlett has a question. And then
Thank you.
Commissioner
I have two.
Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have two questions. One, as a sponsor, previously, if you were only giving oral testimony, you didn't need to, as a sponsor, do we need to go through this sign-up process? Or is it understood that as a sponsor, we are introducing the bill even if we don't have written testimony?
You do not need to go through the sign-up process. We got you.
Okay, great. And then my second question is, is there any allow for grace? I mean, do you have any grace within you, Mr. Chair, with respect to those people who have hearings as early as today or tomorrow? Given the fact that this is all very new to us and everything.
We have tried to be, we are kind of running up against, and I think Dylan has run up against some OIS challenges too, as they are starting to get started. I don't want to throw them under the bus, but we're trying to be as open as we can as we get this set up and as people get used to it. And we're trying to give people as much opportunity to testify before the committee. If you're still, the other thing that we broadly are going to need to talk about, if you have hearings in multiple committees, it's super important then to confer with or to let Dylan know and let us, and he can seek to make sure that we don't put you at a conflicting time with another committee. It's going to require a lot of coordination. Frankly, it would require a lot of coordination for us anyway, but this I think actually makes it even harder. But we'll do the best we can.
So my point is that if someone is even going to only give oral testimony for a hearing, say tomorrow or today, and they did not make that 48-hour window and did not understand that they should have signed up and did not understand that their sponsor could not sign them up, is there any grace?
You want to answer that question?
I'm unable on the back end at 3 p.m. when the window closes. I'm then locked out on my end of being able to sign that, of be able to add them to a list and then send them that Zoom link. So my hands are pretty tied after 3 p.m. after that 3 p.m. window. And I know that there were issues with the window opening up on Tuesday before the first day of session, and people weren't really set into signing up for today's bill hearings, but I just don't have the ability, based on how the system was made, to add people to our hearing list for oral testimony and to get them their unique Zoom link, which the system sends out to everybody.
Okay.
Once we
Great. Well, thank you for your work, Dylan. I know that this has been challenging, and thank you, Mr. Chair. That tie and jacket combination is lovely.
Mr. Chair, can I make just a comment on that too?
Yes, please.
On that, and so Delegate Bartlett, I'm sympathetic because I had some folks that, couldn't get into, but Dylan really has been swamped. So I want to thank Dylan too. Yesterday was a bit crazy for him, but remember, these are bills that we're hearing now that have passed. So I would suggest that it's more important for them to perhaps testify on the Senate side and we make sure we get that right. I just told my folks, thank you for your willingness to participate. I want to focus on getting you on the Senate side. We pass this out of the House. Let's just get this out of the House, and I'll get you in on the Senate side.
Going to Delegate Juanita Fisher.
Hi, Mr. Chair. I'm missing the beard and so excited to see everyone. I just wanted to actually address Delegate Conaway's issue. If you go to view options, you can actually split your Zoom screen and have the document on one side and I have all of you on the other. And then if you put your cursor right between, you actually can move it back and forth to make the document smaller and see more people. So I just wanted to address that for our committee members. And, I'm the millennial. I got to step up with the tech. So that was it.
We thank you very much for that. And we'll go to Delegate McComas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just briefly, I guess I'm kind of concerned, and I'm sure that leadership is concerned about this, about folks that do not have computers that can Zoom to testify. And is there another way that they could kind of register their up or down on bills? Because I know, like, on controversial issues, we'll get tons and tons of emails, and they, and it's sometimes they're just, each person, it's stock email, but at least that those constituents don't like the bill. Is there going to be some procedure for that? And then the other quick question, which is really personal to me and important, is the 48 hours. Let's say the bill hearing is on Wednesday. The thing will open on Monday, and then will that stay open until Tuesday? 48 hours. So it's what, just how many hours before it closes?
Monday at 10 to Monday at 3 for a Wednesday bill hearing.
Okay. All right. I understand then. Thank you.
Yeah. And as for, there are people who are still going to be writing us, and there are people who still send letters and actual written testimony, and that can be put in the bill file. Dylan, do you want to add anything to that? I mean, obviously, if people submit it to us in writing, we don't, we're not going to have a way for them to drop that off. If they want to use the mail to do it, that's fine. Then we can go from there. But Dylan, go ahead.
So between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m., 2 business days before the hearing, anybody could sign up to testify orally or submit written testimony. After that 3 p.m. deadline closes, just like my inability to sign up people to present oral testimony, I don't have the ability to add written testimony or emails to the testimony portal, which you all could access via the floor system. But, and I'll say this, there is nothing stopping you guys, and I can't stop members from emailing whatever testimony they receive out to the rest of the committee. We will do our best to gather that testimony and throw it physically, print it and throw the physical copy into the bill file so it exists in the bill file. I just won't be able to, after that 3 p.m. deadline passes, to add it to the witness testimony portal.
Okay, seeing no further questions so far, let's move on to testimony standards, which is very brief. Any written testimony needs to have a visible bill number located at the top of the first page with your testimony, a clear indication of whether they support, oppose, or are favorable with amendments, and the name and address of the person and or entity testifying or submitting the testimony. This is common sense, and it's something we've been able to do in this committee for years. Shouldn't be a problem. Access to the bill hearings via Zoom. After you've signed up to provide oral testimony for a bill hearing, you'll get an email about whether you have or have not been selected to testify. We intend to go as best we can, and I'm not making light of it. We're going to go first come, first served, and we will seek to make sure that we have people in favor, people favorable with amendments, and people opposed to the bills. So if it's the first 50 people who sign up and they're all opposed, or first 50 people who sign up and all are in favor, we may not take all 50 of those first people. We may take, I think it's 30 of them, and then make sure that everybody else is getting the chance to be heard too. If you've been selected to provide oral testimony, the email will include, like I said, a Zoom link, and will allow you to enter the Zoom meeting room or waiting room. When it's your time to provide oral testimony, the constituent will be admitted to the virtual bill hearing room and then unmuted when they're recognized by me. After the person provides their testimony, committee members may ask questions, and after the question and answer exchange, that person would be removed from the bill hearing room. Written testimony holds the same weight as oral testimony. And so we do encourage people to provide written testimony where they can. Let's see, so crossover, we're actually, we may, get to crossover this year. All identical crossover bills from the Senate, just as usual, will be presented to the Judiciary Committee as sponsor only. So in other words, the Senate bill is exactly like the House bill we passed. We would do a sponsor only hearing. All bills that are re-referred to the Judiciary Committee from the Rules Committee will be presented to the Judiciary Committee as sponsor only. So in other words, if you're late, you're getting a sponsor only hearing, and that's it. Another way of saying, don't be late. The Judiciary Committee will accept oral testimony on crossover or re-referred rules bills from the bill sponsor, a bill sponsor's designee, or the representative of the department that originally requested the bill. For crossover or re-referred rules committee bills, the public can still submit written testimony via the My MGA portal and indicate their position on the bill. We will have time for subcommittees on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays at 11. We haven't set subcommittee meetings as yet. About 48 hours before the subcommittee, your delegate email account will get you an automatic message that contains the Zoom link to access the subcommittee. The message will include the Zoom link and a page on the MGA website that will allow you and others to watch the YouTube live stream. The Zoom link can only be sent to your delegate email account, just like for a regular committee hearing. Zoom credentials to access the hearings with your phone can't be provided. When the time comes and due to scheduling conflicts, Judiciary Committee staff will not be able to host subcommittee meetings. For this reason, the staff for the subcommittee chairs are going to act as the meeting hosts on Zoom, and we appreciate their help in putting this together. If subcommittee chairs need stakeholder participation, as is common, we will ask questions of people who are there. During the subcommittee hearing, we will provide a Zoom link to those identified. We will almost certainly have to schedule additional hearings as we go along, to say the least. For voting sessions, when the time comes, virtual vote sessions will be on Friday afternoons. These vote sessions will begin at approximately 4 o'clock. Approximately 48 hours before the vote session, your delegate email account will give you an automatic message, and surprisingly enough, it'll contain a Zoom link to access the voting session. The Zoom link can only be sent to your delegate email account, can't be sent to your phone. Vote sessions will be viewable to the public via our YouTube live stream. After debate concludes, the chairman will take each vote by roll call. The chairman will then call on members alphabetically, and their votes will be recorded by committee staff. The chair reserves the right not to call alphabetically and do it in any way he deems fit. Sorry. It'll be exciting. The amendments for bills for vote sessions. This year, members will receive their amendments to their email, to their delegate email accounts. If you requested and received an amendment that is related to a bill assigned to our committee, you must forward the amendments to committee members and to committee councils. An amendment that has not been received by all committee members and committee councils within 24 hours of consideration by the committee will not be accepted. So you're going to find out 2 days before what we're going to be voting on. If you want to put together an amendment, you're going to need to get an amendment turned around by 4 o'clock the day before in order to submit that amendment for consideration by the committee. This is, I would say, traditionally in judiciary, we have had a flexible way of kind of dealing with amendments. For the sanity of our council, we really need to have more of a set process this time, which is going to make it slower, but we hopefully will make it a little easier on everybody. And further, to help with the sanity of council, no, they can't draft your amendment. They really can't. The amendment has to go to the amendment room and they need to do it there. Okay, hard copy testimony. Judiciary is not going to provide packets of hard copy testimony for briefings or for bill hearings, and no exceptions will be made. These materials are going to be on your laptop via the floor system. If you want to continue using hard copy materials, you and your staff will have the ability to print and organize those materials in your office. Did I mention that we're not printing them out for you? No, we're not doing that. Okay, are there questions about this? Delegate Conaway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So to get an amendment to a bill accepted, you have to put the amendment has to come to the Judiciary Committee within 48 hours of the bill being heard. Is that right?
20, no. So if it is coming up on a bill, if you're going to have it on the voting session, it'll be listed on the voting session, and the list will come out. We're aiming for 2 days prior to the actual voting session. You will have to have your amendment to the committee 1 day before the voting session, so 24 hours before the voting session.
And what happens if you have an amendment to someone's amendment?
If you have an amendment to someone's amendment.
Okay, well, let me put this another way, because I know you're very strategically thought person. So if an amendment is accepted on a bill, but you didn't hear the amendment, you had 50 amendments, one amendment is accepted to the bill, and you want to amend or put an amendment to that amendment, which is accepted on the bill, what is the process?
I think the process would then be that there would have to be a question. We have not gotten that far yet. I think there would be a discussion during the bill hearing as to whether we wanted to stop the bill to give the opportunity to draft another amendment on the amendment. Having said that, I'm not sure what, we'd have to see what situation kind of arose to make that essential. So I'll take that under consideration, but at this point, I guess it would mean that you'd either have a delay, which may or may not be appropriate, and that we'd have to have a ruling of the chair as to whether we were going to hold up further consideration on the bill.
Why would the chair have the, I mean, I'm not challenging your authority, but if you have a bill that's been amended that you have never seen that bill and how it works under that amendment, then why would the chair have authority to say, I'm not going to hold this for additional amendments?
So I mean, the thing is, if there was an amendment offered to the bill, you debate whether or not to accept the amendment on the bill, which it strikes me means that you would then part of the debate on whether to accept the amendment on the first place would be talking about how that would in fact change the bill.
Yes.
So if you didn't like the amendment, you'd vote against the amendment.
Yes, I understand. For example, on the decriminalization of the marijuana, that bill changed forms several times. And in the end, I had a problem with the paraphernalia was still 2 years, still a 2-year penalty and all of that, while the marijuana wasn't. It was a ticket offense. But it came out, the answer came up to be under that chairman's rule to next year's issue. And while it became a next year's issue, during that year period, you had a certain group of people who were penalized who thought that the marijuana was legal and therefore the paraphernalia was legal, and they was getting locked up for the paraphernalia and going down to central booking. They just.
So I understand that, and I understand I understand what you're saying.
Yes, sir.
I think that what would happen is if you, in that scenario, and in this system, would have an amendment then to, in that specific case for something that happened 3 years ago, that would change or would seek to amend the bill again, you're going to be able, if people want to put forward multiple amendments, the committee will consider them as appropriate. So I don't know that I get your point, but I think that if you wanted to have the bill amended to take out that specific language in that specific example, you would have drafted an amendment that would then be considered as part of that process. You could talk more, and we can try to address it, but yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
No, that's good. All right. So now we have one rule that I'm going to seek to, we need to talk about to modify. And before we do that, let us recognize our newest member and recognize her appropriately. Where is Delegate Chime? There she is. All right, the newest member of our committee, Delegate Erican, has another member of our committee on her lap there, and I don't know if that's waving. Great. Am I pronouncing your name correctly, Delegate?
You are pronouncing it correctly. You did say Cham, right?
Yes, Cham. All right.
That's how it's pronounced. Just think of champion, and the first 4 letters of champion is Cham. Not
all right.
Arrogant, but someone else shared that with me, and I'm like, I like that.
That's fine. All right. Well, welcome you to the committee. We
thank you.
As we all know, Delegate Pippi and Delegate Jazz Lewis have abandoned us, and we have real pain and anguish in our hearts about these things, but we're very happy that you are here and that you'll be able to be part of what's going to be a very, very interesting year. Delegate Shetty had a question, so I'm going to go back to Delegate Shetty, and then I'm going to address a rule change issue. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome to our new delegate. We're excited to have you. My question, sir, was regarding the amendments section that you just shared. I understand how that operates as it relates to amendments on full committee voting sessions, but just curious if the same rules apply for subcommittee consideration. Are we also going to be getting 48-hour notice of what we're going to be voting on in subcommittee, the opportunity to request amendments there, or is it a different process? Thank you.
I think that we're going to be working through that process a little bit. I don't think it will be as firm. I think that we're going to try and keep the subcommittee process kind of similar to what we've done in the past, where there's a more open discussion and people are kind of back and forth and kicking around the details of the bill. So the idea when we get to a full committee hearing, it's a lot harder for us to have that happen when there are 21 of us all working on each independent bill. You're going to know what bills are going to come up in front of the subcommittees in the same with the same warning that we've provided people for subcommittees in the past. Okay. Let me go with the rule change. So our committee is going to have routine voting sessions, but is not going to convene back to the House floor for several weeks. So we will have some voting sessions, like I said, not tomorrow, not next Friday, but we aren't going to go back to the full floor of the House for several weeks. So I am asking for a vote of the committee to allow the Judiciary Committee to vote on bills and not be required to send those bills to the clerk of the House within 3 legislative days of the committee vote. So in other words, right now, if we voted today on something, I'd have to send it to the clerk, but we won't be meeting together as a whole and for several weeks yet. So it creates this gray area that doesn't really work. Does anybody have any questions or
I'll move that.
there's a motion to accept it. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second from Delegate Fisher, and I saw Delegate Cardin with a question.
So just a real quick question. If once you send something to the clerk, are they required to put it on the legislative calendar for the House?
I think that's the thing, yes, and that's the problem because as we all know, the House is operating, but in basically a pro forma session. So there just aren't a lot of people. They're just the three: the Speaker, the Minority Leader, Majority Leader, who are going to be there. So the idea is we're not going to have full House debates until we get everybody back from these virtual hearings.
So yeah, it makes sense then. If the clerk's office can't just hold on to it, then the rule is crucial.
Yeah, they have to report it to the full body. So that is why we would seek to make that amendment to how our committee operates. There is a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on this issue? I'm watching for hands raised or questions in the chat. Delegate Conaway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Why wouldn't the rules be changed on when the bills have to be printed? I mean, have to be submitted, but we go ahead and submit the bills so that they have it and can be circulated from the committee. In other words, we're making a huge backlog of these bills, and then a month from now, they're going to be flooded with like 100 bills, 500 bills.
Well, I don't know that it'll be 500 bills. We can only pass the first 100 of your bills, Delegate Conaway. I'm sorry.
I haven't even put in one bill yet. So
oh, well, see, it's going to take a while then.
No, that's okay. We'll get cracking.
No, I take your point. I will say what we are probably looking at when we all come back together as a body is you're going to have long voting sessions. They're going to be
right
on the floor, and that's just what's going to happen. The idea is to keep us there and as brief or for as relatively brief a time as possible. And also, hopefully, we will see, hopefully, a few weeks, the backside of the Christmas and New Year's surge that we're kind of in the middle of right now. There is a hope that it will be at least moving in the right direction at that point, and it'll be a little safer for us to be there as a group. So to that end, yeah, I hear you, but I'll tell you, we're going to have pretty long floor sessions when we all come back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Are there full? And we also, in the rules that we passed, Delegate Moon rightly points out, we made changes to consent calendars. So one of the things that's going to help is if there were bills that we passed out, 21, 22 to nothing, that went out on the floor last year, were 136 to nothing, or were widely supported, you could conceive of them being a consent calendar. If people want to pull a consent calendar, they can. But that will be, the idea will be we'll be able to move some relatively non-controversial legislation that way. All right, if there are no further questions, there's a motion and a second on the rule change, which I, of course, have put somewhere else. But in the rule change, here it is, that would allow the Judiciary Committee to vote on bills and not be required to send those bills to the clerk of the House within 3 legislative days of the committee vote. I will begin if I see no further questions, and I don't. All right. The Vice Chair.
Yes.
Delegate Anderson. Yes.
Unmute.
Unmute.
Yes.
Delegate Arakan.
Yes.
Delegate Bartlett.
Yes.
Delegate Carden,
Yes.
Delegate Conaway,
Yes.
Delegate Cox,
Yes.
Delegate Crutchfield,
Yes.
Delegate Deborah Davis.
Yes.
Just trying to help. Delegate Juanica Fisher,
Thank you. Yes.
Delegate Grammer,
Yes.
Delegate Griffith,
Yes.
Delegate Lopez,
Yes.
Delegate Malone.
Yes.
Okay. Oh my God, Mike. Delegate McComas,
Yes. Yes.
Delegate Moon,
Yes.
Delegate Shetty,
Sorry, yes.
Delegate Cham,
Yes.
Delegate Watson. That was Delegate Cham's first vote ever. How about that? All right. Did it very well. Delegate Watson,
Yes.
Delegate Williams.
Yes.
All right, and the chair votes aye. Okay. That is fine. So we are done with that. We will begin at 1:30 with our first virtual bill hearing. There are five, right, Dylan? Yeah, okay, fine. So we have that many, and we will go there and start at 1:30, and we'll see how it goes. I beg you for your patience. We'll do the very best we can. We're trying to do the very best we can. But if you have questions, ask. Dylan will do the best he can to answer them. And I look forward to being with you virtually and apparently wearing interesting coats. All right. Have a very nice day, and we will see you at 1:30. Bye-bye.